As I sit here reflecting on my journey with porn addiction, I've come to realize that it's not just about the act itself, but about the deep-seated cycle that drives us back to it time and time again. That's why I want to take a closer look at the surprising truth about porn addiction and how it affects millions of people worldwide. The truth is, porn addiction is a real, treatable condition that affects people from all walks of life. It's not just about someone sitting alone in a dark room, scrolling through their phone. It's about a complex interplay of factors that conspire to keep us hooked. Research suggests that up to 30% of men and 10% of women have experienced some form of porn addiction, and the numbers are growing. But here's the thing. Porn addiction isn't just about the individual. It's also about the societal context in which we live. We're constantly bombarded with images and messages that normalize and even glamorize porn use. The average age of first exposure to porn is a staggering 11 years old, and by the time we reach our So, what happens when we're exposed to porn at such a young age? How does it affect our brains and our behavior? Let us take a closer look at the cycle of addiction and how it hijacks our brain's reward system. When we're exposed to porn, our brain releases a flood of dopamine, a neurotransmitter that's associated with pleasure and reward. This can create a powerful feedback loop where we become hooked on the feeling of pleasure and continue to seek it out. But here's the thing. Our brain is wired to respond to novelty and excitement, and porn provides a constant source of both. As we continue to feed our addiction, our brain starts to adapt by changing the way it responds to dopamine. This can lead to a state of tolerance, where we need more and more exposure to porn to feel the same level of pleasure. At the same time, our brain starts to associate porn with stress relief and anxiety reduction, making it even harder to quit. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but I can just quit cold turkey and get out of this cycle. Unfortunately, it's not that simple. The cycle of addiction is complex and multifaceted, and it's not just about willpower In fact, research suggests that attempting to quit porn cold turkey can actually lead to a phenomenon called rebound effect, where we experience increased cravings and withdrawal symptoms. So, what can we do instead? How can we break free from the cycle of addiction and start a new chapter in our lives? Let us take a closer look at some common misconceptions about porn addiction and how we can debunk them. One of the biggest myths is that porn is harmless and that it's not addictive. But the truth is that porn can have serious consequences for our mental and emotional health, including increased anxiety, depression, and relationship problems. Another myth is that we can simply get over porn addiction by willpower but the reality is that porn addiction is a complex condition that requires a comprehensive treatment approach, including therapy, support groups, and lifestyle changes. Finally, there's the myth that we're alone in this struggle. But the truth is that millions of people worldwide are fighting the same battle, and there's hope and support available. By sharing our stories and our struggles, we can create a sense of community and connection that can help us overcome our addiction. As I reflect on my own journey with porn addiction, I'm reminded of the importance of seeking help and support. It's not easy to confront our demons and ask for help, but it's often the first step towards recovery. So, what's next? How can we start to break free from the cycle of addiction and create a new chapter in our lives? In the next section, we'll explore some practical strategies for quitting porn and starting a new journey towards healing and recovery. But for now, let us take a moment to reflect on the shocking truth about porn addiction and how it affects millions of people worldwide. The average age of first exposure to porn is 11 years old. How did this happen, and why is it so hard to break free? These are questions that we'll continue to explore in this video. But for now, let's just take a moment to acknowledge the complexity and the challenge of this issue. We're not alone, and there's hope available. Let's take the first step towards recovery and start a new chapter in our lives. Breaking the cycle and rewiring your brain. As I reflect on my journey with porn addiction, I've come to realize that it's not just about the act itself, but about the deep-seated cycle that drives us back to it time and time again. We think we're in control, but we're often just reacting to our emotions and desires without even realizing it. So, how do we break this cycle and start rewiring our brains for healthier habits? Let's start with understanding the underlying drivers of our porn use. What are the personal triggers and emotional needs that fuel our behavior? For me, it was a mix of stress, boredom, and a deep-seated need for connection. I'd find myself scrolling through my phone, mindlessly browsing through porn sites, and before I knew it, hours had passed. It was like I was under a spell, unable to stop myself. But here's the thing. Once I became aware of my triggers, I was able to start addressing them. I began practicing mindfulness and meditation to manage my stress levels, and I started engaging in more fulfilling activities that brought me joy, like playing music and hiking. By recognizing my emotional needs and finding healthier ways to meet them, I was able to reduce my reliance on porn. Now, you may be wondering, but what about willpower? Can't I just stop using porn if I really want to? The answer is more complex than you think. While willpower can certainly play a role in overcoming addiction, it's not enough on its own. Our brains are wired to respond to patterns and habits, and porn use can create powerful neural pathways that are difficult to break. That's why building self-awareness is so crucial in the recovery process. By recognizing the physical and emotional symptoms of addiction, like anxiety, irritability, and withdrawal, we can develop a recovery plan that works for us. For me, that meant setting boundaries around my technology use, seeking support from friends and family, and finding healthy outlets for my emotions. So, how do we rewiring our brains for healthier habits? One strategy is to replace compulsive behavior with healthier coping mechanisms. Instead of reaching for my phone when I'm feeling stressed or bored, I now reach for a journal or a musical instrument. I've also started practicing gratitude by reflecting on the things I'm thankful for each day. By focusing on the positive, I'm able to shift my mindset and build resilience. It's not easy, and it's not a one-time fix. Rewiring our brains takes time, effort, and patience. But with consistent practice and we can start to break the cycle of addiction and develop healthier habits that bring us joy and fulfillment. So, what's the first step you can take today to start rewiring your brain? Here's the script content for the current section. As I continue on my journey towards recovery, I've come to realize that having a solid plan in place is crucial for long-term success. Creating a sustainable recovery plan means building a strong foundation that will help you navigate the ups and downs of life without falling back into old patterns. For me, that started with finding a supportive community. I began attending online groups and forums where I could connect with others who were going through similar struggles. One of the most valuable resources I found was a local support group for individuals struggling with porn addiction. It was amazing to see how others were overcoming their own challenges and living fulfilling lives. The sense of accountability and camaraderie was incredibly powerful, and it gave me the motivation to keep pushing forward. I also started working with a therapist who specialized in addiction recovery. She helped me identify underlying issues that were contributing to my addiction and taught me coping mechanisms to deal with cravings. Now, I want to talk about something that might seem obvious, but it's really easy to overlook: our relationship with technology. For most of us, our devices are an integral part of our daily lives, and it can be difficult to disconnect. But the truth is, technology can be a major trigger for addiction. I used to spend hours scrolling through social media, comparing my life to others and feeling like I wasn't good enough. But as I worked on my recovery, I realized that I had the power to control my digital life. For me, that meant setting boundaries around my screen time and finding healthier ways to relax, like reading or taking walks. It also meant being more mindful of the content I was consuming and avoiding triggers like explicit material. By taking control of my digital life, I was able to reduce my exposure to triggers and maintain a more balanced lifestyle. As I look back on my journey, I realized that recovery isn't just about quitting porn. It is about creating a fulfilling life that is free from the cycle of addiction. For me, that means pursuing hobbies and interests that bring me joy, like writing and photography. It also means nurturing relationships with loved ones and building a support network of people who care about me. But here's the good news. With the right tools and mindset, you can break free from the cycle of addiction and live a more authentic, fulfilling life. It won't be easy, but it's worth it. And as you continue on your own journey towards recovery, remember,